Go.
Uh, Hello, everyone. We are from the group of Socialized Housing. We're Kent, Jane, Josh, and Christine, and we will be discussing our vision for the socialized housing of Quezon City in 2050. And we will backtrack our plans, policies, and projects for the next 4 decades to be able to achieve that vision. Next. So for our report today, we will first establish how we see Quezon City in 2050. After that, we're going to discuss the different facets of what we think should comprise the policies of socialized housing for the next 4 decades. And from there, we will discuss the different plans, projects, and policies to be able to achieve that our Quezon City 2050 vision. Next.
Now for the Quezon City 2050 vision, the local government of Quezon City envisions a 2050 where nearly all residents of Quezon City are bridged to the comfort of having a home that they can own and a community that they can be part of. Now that we're using a rights-based approach, Quezon City now grounds itself today and to the years to come that housing is a right of every resident of Quezon City. Hand in hand with all the stakeholders, the quality of life of residents in every socialized village will be promised. Condominium type housing and state of the art facilities will be established to suit the community's needs of the residents. And also, the recipients of the housing projects will be involved in policymaking to ensure the participatory nature of the project.
In line with its vision, the Quezon City Socialized Housing Program was divided into four facets as we plan not only to provide houses but develop communities. The following are people and communities, housing, urban planning and management, and government mindset.
Okay, so we start in the year 2050, in which we start with the defining a desirable future that then works backward to identify policies and programs that will connect the specified future to the present. Next slide. Okay, in year 2050, we assume that people are in the quality or condition of being self-sufficient because they have enough knowledge wherein they can build community-based organizations and environment. They also have access and complete and quality housing, social housing, and citizens' participation in the forms of social, political, and economic aspect, and also being well informed and proficient in the use of modern technology. Next.
For housing in 2050, we plan to continuously secure land areas to be used in socialized housing projects in line with the predicted city population growth. We also plan to actively identify people living at high-risk zones and prioritize on relocation processes. Site houses and buildings are designed to withstand risks and hazards, preventing disasters and adapting to the needs of the geographical areas. Housing maintenance plans are arranged, reducing wear and tear for houses built prior to 2050. 98% of social housing plans are built, where the remaining 2% are social housing plans for the future. Meanwhile, 99% of Quezon City population enjoy adequate housing, while the remaining 1% are anticipated to be the people who would need social housing on current time.
For urban planning and management, we believe that to truly feel at home, housing must extend beyond the four walls of one's domains. Quezon City will be a city where everyone feels at home with a supportive and enabling community. So for 2050, we see Quezon City as a smart and sustainable city where nearly all residents have a home within a thriving community with decent work and wages and contributes to the city's economy. Moreover, Quezon City will be well connected. Public transportation is efficient, safe, and world class, and there will be fast digital and communication services that are accessible to all the citizens of the city. Public and open spaces are also abundant and fully developed. Moreover, Quezon City is a carbon neutral and disaster risk proof city. Lastly, and most important of all, public services such as quality education, healthcare, and public open space are afforded to all the citizens.
Now moving on to the government mindset for 2050, we can see the full effect of participatory governance and foresight with the citizen control and the delegated power manifesting. So first, you can see it in the full autonomy being devolved from the Quezon City local government to the housing associations with regard to the decision making in the villages. Second, mobile applications on socialized housing needs for Quezon City is already available to boost the efficiency in addressing the demands and concerns of the people. And finally, 2 to 3 assured seats from every socialized village among the CSOs of Quezon City local special body is promised.
Okay, in the year 2040, we assume that, next slide, we assume that people are in the state of maintaining or supporting oneself at a minimum level, although they are although they are all well educated enough in planning, family planning, reproductive health, and population control, which leads to each head of every household have stable jobs and almost none informal settlers in Quezon City. Next.
By this year, socialized housing should have secured 90% of land to be used in its projects. We actively identify people living at high risk zones and prioritize them on the relocation processes. Site houses and buildings are designed to withstand risks and hazards, preventing disasters and adapting to the needs of the geographical area. Housing maintenance and plans are arranged reducing wear and tear for the houses built prior to 2040. 85% of social housing plans are built, while 75% of the Quezon City population enjoy adequate housing.
Urban planning and management. So to achieve a smart and sustainable city by 2050, the 2040s decade must already establish the urban pattern and the different social programs. First, main streets, street networks, and block layouts will be mapped out and will already be undergoing construction. With this, street profiles for each street are will be usable. That includes the main road, sidewalks, the bike lanes, street lighting, etc. Public and private investment for the Quezon City 2050 will already be secured. Policies and emergency action in case of disasters as well as the infrastructure will be already in place. And most of all, necessary public programs will be in their first phase of implementation. This includes the schools, hospitals, fire stations, parks, etc.
Now for the government mindset in the year 2040, backtracking from citizen control, we now move on to the partnerships and placation. So we see the following. First, there is equal power devolved to Quezon City local government and housing associations with regard to decision making. Quezon City LGU also partners with both private and religious sector in improving the socialized villages. The local government also encourages the people and communities from socialized villages to lobby city policies with regard to housing. And of course, there is one assured seat for every socialized village among the CSOs of the Quezon City local special bodies.
Okay, moving on to the year 2030 implementation stage. Next slide. Okay. Uh, the evaluation and consultation stage wherein people or stakeholders are involved to discuss what they want through social gatherings and assemblies, like what are their demands and needs. Through this public discourse, people in the community are able to cooperate and consult the government in developing solutions. Next.
For the year 2030 in housing, public fiscal resource is allocated for the housing project. 85% of the land to be used in social housing projects is secured. We actively identify people living at high-risk zones and prioritize them on the relocation processes. Site houses and buildings are designed to withstand risks and hazards, preventing disasters and adapting to the needs of the geographical area. Site designs are inclusive, accessible, and universal. Sites have the basic access to the utilities. 70% of the social housing plans are built, and 70% of the Quezon City population enjoy adequate housing.
Now, for urban planning and management. So before the urban pattern and social programs could be effective by 2040, the 2030s decade must focus on establishing the physical layout of Quezon City. So first, areas of public and private investment will be identified, along with the possible economic areas and sources of revenue. Next, public and open spaces will already be open, but not yet fully developed. Networks of these public spaces will be created so that each citizen of the city will be able to access them. Disaster risk areas will also be mapped out and studied. And of course, lastly, necessary public programs will now be outlined. This includes education, healthcare, and fire stations, parks, etc.
Now moving on to the government mindset for the year 2030, since this shall be the first decade in implementing the socialized housing blueprint made in 2021, we shall see the following. 75% of decision making remains with the QCLGU, while the 25% will be given for the housing associations. Local government units or the local government of Quezon City will promise a flat rate for housing units until 2050. Thus, only fees stated in the contract will be paid by the people. Close consultations of people's grievances is done during the first 5 years of implementation to ensure that community or housing adjustments are undertaken. Establishment of housing association per village is seen who will act as a representative or liaison to the local government unit. And also, given that this is a digital age and the recent found significance in ICT infrastructure brought by the pandemic, Quezon City Local Government Unit will coordinate with the DICT for broadband network infrastructure within the villages.
Okay, so finally for the year 2020, at the last stage of planning, next. Okay, here we assume in groundwork and planning, we assume that stakeholders are educated with the action of predicting what will happen or what will they need in the future. Stakeholders are creating should create a plan that focuses on setting and managing expectations and their demands. Through brainstorming, people in the community are discussing possible issues and problems they might deal with or in planning the program. Next.
For housing in 2020, we shall conduct social investigation wherein we identify and profile people in need of socialized housing. A priority list should be given for those living in high-risk zones. We should also have a survey conducted where we where we search for the available land areas for social housing in city or near city locations. We should also have a list of available housing developers and contractors.
For urban planning and management, In order to achieve the grand vision for 2050, the preparation must start today. So the 2020s decade will focus on laying the groundwork, beginning with a citywide analysis. Main access points and important areas will be identified. This includes roads, rivers, green spaces, current infrastructure. Along with these, the legal restrictions will be researched, such as the national parks, rural areas, cultural markers, and legal boundaries. The potential location of the housing projects will also be mapped out, as well as the possible plans for extension. Most importantly, population growth is projected, and the target recipients for the socialized housing programs will be listed and prioritized. Along with these, the land requirements will now be calculated according to the planned density. Josh, I think you're muted.
All right, thank you, Ken. For December this year, we'll now focus in informing and also evaluation of stakeholders. So what we can see here is first, there is information caravan that will be conducted from the Quezon City local government in partnership with the NHA, UP, NCPAG, and also, of course, the community organizers, wherein we target that 50 to 70% of informal settlers will be educated about the new socialized housing initiative. Also, as we advocate for participatory governance, Quezon City LGU immediately involves interested informal settlers in the 2020 planning. Now, futures thinking and foresight will be used as fundamental tools in crafting the 2050 socialized housing plan. And as stated earlier, an extensive information campaign regarding the project for other informal sectors will be conducted.
In close, QC 2050 is a future where nearly all residents of Quezon City have a home that they can own and a community that they can be part of. We backtrack the progress of social housing in 4 decades with a firm belief that housing is a right of every resident of Quezon City. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully, in 2050, the quality of life of residents in every socialized village in Quezon City will be promised. Thank you very much.